2024, it is wrapped up, and as uninspired of a year as it was, we're going to go over it. Welcome to the HolmFront.
It was very weird.
Hello, welcome to the HolmFront. I believe this is a weekend, so welcome to the weekend as well. YouTube time.
YouTube time.
I am Tyler, your host. This, to my right, as always, is Mitch, my overly artistic friend. Mitch, welcome. Thank you.
Hello, I'm overly artistic.
Very.
Especially last episode. Are you going to do the Nosferatu episode before
No,
this
this. Well, thanks for just ruining everything. I'm not wearing the same shirt either.
I'm not.
True, yeah, you had the temerity to change. No, so Nosferatu is going to be the first Thursday of January, and then this is going to be the last Thursday of January.
Okay, so they've seen the Nosferatu episode
They will
where I
have.
was extra artistic, I felt.
Extra, yeah. We had to go deep into some of the deep takes of gothic horror and all kinds of stuff. It was great.
It's fun. I finally got a chance to talk about all that gothic horror stuff I learned in
nothing else
college.
that
my
movie
MFA.
gave us, it gave us a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, introduced very interesting talking points. But that's not the talking point for this episode.
It is not.
This one is, what's this one about? Make
So
you answer.
I figured you host a channel called the Oscarinas, which is kind of an award ceremony type thing. You're a big fan of the Oscars.
I am.
I'm not. But I figured, why not? Why don't we put together a list of our favorites and least favorites of the year, and we'll just kind of go over them. I'm not going to go too far into depth with some of these. If you want more commentary, most of these will be on the channel at some point if they aren't there already. At least in the good realm. In the bad realm, probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. So I figured let's start with the worst.
I agree.
Let's start with the worst.
I agree. Let's go with the worst because there was a lot of awful
There was
movies
so
this
many
year.
bad movies in 2024.
It was brutal.
It was really, really rough.
It was rough year for movies.
And I said, when we were talking about this, I said 3. I was like, 3 good, 3 bad. And as I scrolled,
there's like a dozen more we could have added.
So I have an honorable mention section. Don't worry, we're going to get to as many as we can. And I have ones that we haven't seen yet that I know are bad.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I'm saying it. And then our good list, spoilers, kind of match because there wasn't that much good made.
Yeah.
It was like, well, these are the only good ones that came out that are like noteworthy. Anyway,
Right.
So let's go with the worst.
Okay.
I'm gonna have. I'll let you do your third one first.
Okay.
So, like, is that your favorite bad movie? It's like the least bad one.
Well, the
Or do
one
you
I
have them
hated the
ranked?
most is number 1. That's
Okay.
the movie
Yeah, that's what
that
I
was
thought. All right.
insufferable and
So what do
just
you hate
awful.
the least? Let's see.
So among the least, but this is still third place, so it gets the bronze award.
Oh, and we talked about this too, by the way. So this list, the worst, is, well, at least for you, it's the ones you hated the most. Not necessarily that
Yes.
were the worst, objectively. It was more
Right.
of like what you disliked the most.
Yeah, I thought I would change it up and be a bit of a contrarian just
Be
because
a little bit more subjective this time.
there's some really obvious ones like, The Crow or Madam Web or whatever.
Right.
But
They were critically acclaimed in the hated section.
yeah, exactly. Acclaimed. There were so many bad food movies that were breaking records. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
But,
a lot.
Yeah, but for my list, I decided to stay away from those, in part because, like, I'm still having fun because I'm laughing at them. So, like, I've picked movies that I personally found just completely insufferable. I don't want to watch again.
Okay.
Or they did something that really, really irked me. Like, on a personal level, in terms of, like, the craftsmanship or just something about the subject matter or whatever, they had to, like, get under my skin. So, and it's not, and I might not have seen everything. Like, I still haven't seen Madam Web and whatever. So, just take that in mind when you're going through my list of worst. It's like the ones that are just personal takes. And the first one on that gets the bronze trophy is Long Legs.
Which I've actually heard good things from people that enjoy horror on average.
Well, those people are wrong.
So I don't. Let's avoid spoilers for this one
Okay,
if you can. Can you not?
probably. I'll do my best.
Do you prefer to?
I mean, I don't think the film deserves any kind of free passes.
Okay, so we won't. I'll just say spoiler warning then, just in case. Take it away. What makes it a hated film for you?
Okay, for one, the critics gave it like an 80-something%, and audiences gave it a 60%. And I don't know what the critics were smoking when they watched this movie. I get that, like, on some level, the filmmaking isn't bad for the good majority of it. I liked the lead actress quite a bit, actually. I thought she was very emotive. She had a lot to do with, like, her expressions and, like, her breathing, and she did a really good job. I mean, the premise of this movie is, like, she's, like, a cop, and she's trying to hunt down this killer. And
sounds intriguing.
It's like...
And I know we all know the casting of this movie. The killer is Nick Cage.
It's Nicolas Cage,
Nick
right.
Cage.
And Nicolas Cage is not the reason I dislike it. Nicolas Cage is fine. He was too much.
No.
Way too much.
Nick Cage? No way. That's... What? No. I gotta get that sounder.
I know. So yeah, it was Nicolas Cage as the bad guy, and he was too much. But the problem is they kill off Nicolas Cage's character.
Okay.
And then they have the gall to go an extra, like, 20 minutes to give us the actual villain.
Oh, no.
And to do this final scene, which was the most, like, painstakingly bad, like, bad acting, bad dialogue, bad composition. It's like the filmmakers completely forgot everything that they were doing. And then they do this last scene, like, oh, I guess we'll just phone the rest of this in. It's like, what happened? Where was the team who started this movie? Because when it started, it was fine. It was going good. I was enjoying myself. I thought cinematography was nice. It was like, you know, had some good, like, subtlety moments. Like, it was working. And then you get to the end, and it would just...
It just pulled the Signs on you?
It just, yeah, it does. It's like Signs. It's literally on the level of as bad as Signs in terms of the ending. So I can spoil it if you want, but if you're worried I might ruin Longlegs for you.
I mean, I'll watch it, so let's leave it.
Okay.
I'll be surprised.
But for the rest of you, it was just take my word for it. It was Signs level of just, I can't anymore. Please give me your worst.
Okay, so my least worst.
Your least worst,
My favorite worst.
The Bronze.
Okay, sure. We'll go with Bronze. Was Godzilla X Kong. Okay, dumb title. Like, there was these series of films. I can think of two off the top of my head, but there was Batman v Superman and then Godzilla v Kong. I was like,
yeah.
At least for Godzilla v Kong, it does have a classic film that it is referencing, because there is a movie called that back in whatever the 40s or 50, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's like, it is a dumb title. Think of something better.
Dumb
like give me something better. Come on, you can do.
What is so wrong with verses?
Okay?
VS period. What's wrong with that? Why can't we just use verses? Video games do it all the time. You know.
I mean, regardless, even if it says versus or if it's just a VS or whatever, it's still stupid. Like, this is not a video game; it's a movie. So, like, treat it like a movie.
Yeah,
give me an actual title. And
Godzilla versus Kong.
That's a nitpick. Whatever. This one's Godzilla X Kong. So I was like, did we just go further down the alphabet? Like, what does the X stand for? What are you talking about?
X what?
Yeah, exactly. What is this? So, all that aside, the movie itself is actually terrible. Like, it is. And to be fair, like, I understand that there's a certain level of schlock you're gonna get with this type of movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, certain of them are pretty fun. Like, we both enjoy the Kong film. Like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't try to be
Skull
anything.
Island?
Yeah, Skull Island.
Yeah, Skull Island's awesome.
It's great. It's because it's not like trying to be something more than it is. It's just kind of like they get trapped on this island with this giant ape. Yeah. And he fights a couple other monsters, and then you're just like, all right.
He has kind of a duel with Samuel L. Jackson, which was awesome.
It was great. That part's arguably worth watching the movie by itself.
Yeah.
So there's that one. I enjoy, for the most part, the first Godzilla film. It's all right. Second one was
the original?
No, like the Gareth Edwards one.
Oh, sorry.
In this universe, you know.
Oh,
yes,
yes.
Or whatever it is. And then Godzilla versus Kong is actually probably the movie that I enjoyed the most, because that one is a stupid title for sure. but it seemed like it was trying a lot harder to give the audiences what they want. Because like,
Are you talking about this one? The X
no
Kong?
versus Kong, the one right before it, the one
So
with
wait, there was Godzilla versus Kong, and then there was Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. That's what I'm saying. That this one came after, so they just went one letter down the alphabet, and they're like, "That's all we need to do, right?"
Okay,
Because X means nothing.
I didn't go that far when you were describing it, so I missed that point because it was too stupid. But I'm there now.
That's
Continue.
So Godzilla versus Kong did as much as it could to give the audience what we wanted. Like, if
Okay.
you're going to see a Godzilla versus Kong film, what do you want to see? Godzilla
Action.
versus Kong.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy, pretty simple, right? That's what you got. And they put Mechagodzilla in there, which is pretty cool. And so,
I remember that movie. Yeah, that was a bad movie, but it was like.
but it's one of those that like doesn't
serviceable trash.
exactly. It's just one of those background films.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, yeah, big monsters, boom.
Yeah.
And then this one goes back to what they were doing before. And I don't know why exactly. Again, we don't try to we don't like go research all this stuff and figure it out. What we get is what we evaluate. What I imagine, if I'm going to speculate, is that they were low on the budget for the CGI, and so they're like, "There's only so much destruction we can do, so we got to put the humans on screen as much as possible."
I see.
And their plot line is the dumbest, thinnest, stupidest thing. Like, they just keep following it, and you're like, I don't care. I want destruction and mayhem and death and destruction and fire. And
they
like,
can't even do that right.
it was like not enough. It was barely in there. I mean, they give a couple of decent scenes, but it was like, dude, I'm here watching a Godzilla movie. Like, stop trying to give me something like, ooh, look at this. This is cool. It's like, no, man, this is a Godzilla movie. It's not that cool.
Well, what were
It's
the
just-
humans trying to do?
So there's the little girl.
There's always a kid.
Yeah, she's the one that's connected with Kong in the other movie, you know, and she like touches his hand. That
Yeah.
one. So she apparently has ties or roots to this like ancient tribe, and they're the ones that like worship Kong. And so she's trying to get back to them, and so she's having dreams of like these symbols and such. It's really threadbare, like it's barely thought out. It's just a bunch of exposition as they're running through, and then on top of all that, to make it even worse, they just dump a bunch of Marvel humor in there.
Oof.
Like it's egregiously stupid. Like one guy gets eaten by a tree, and there's a guy who it's just funny because of the way he says it and that he's saying, "That guy just got eaten by a tree. I don't want to die like that. Oh my god, oh, are we all gonna die like that?" And then it's even funnier because the other guy comes in and he gives him a hug. He's like, "Shouldn't live in fear, man. We should." And I was like, dude, please just.
Can't even fake laugh.
It's so stupid. It's really bad.
Oof.
So that was Godzilla X Kong. The horrible, horrible movie. I was weirdly enough, I was expecting more. Maybe that's my fault. Stupid me.
It is your fault.
It's so I didn't see your next choice, but what's your next choice?
Okay, so but this is now we jump to something good, right? Third
Oh.
place good.
Oh, sure,
Can we do that?
sure.
Okay, because this is the only one where we slightly disagreed. So we have different movies. I guess.
There was
we're
two
kinda-
movies that kind of tied, and we're like, well, I don't really know. Like I lean one way, he leans the other way, but I mean,
Yeah.
they both could make an argument. So,
So my
and this is given 2024. Like we had
yeah.
bare pickings. Like it was hard to find a number 3. So
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the good movies are for me. They always come in like January because it's all the Oscar movies. Because I like Oscar movies, so
fair.
I usually have to wait for the good stuff. But yeah, the one that I liked in third place this year is Mad Max Furiosa, which is something I never thought I'd say because I despised Fury Road. I hated that movie so much. I thought it was terrible. I know everybody loves it, but it was just so in my face and just so like, look at this action. Oh! And it was like so much testosterone being pumped into the screen. I was like, dude, we've got to temper this a little bit. This is just way too much. So where's the story? Like the best part of that movie is when it slows down, when
The
they
one
stop the
scene,
chase,
yeah.
the one scene, and they actually like sit and process. There's that really great shot of Charlize Theron where she's on her knees and she's like, and like the sand is like blowing and stuff. Like that was the best part. I was like, more of this, please. And Mad Max Furiosa
That's that.
gave me more of that.
That's fair.
It's strange because it's the same director, and I think he's the same. He writes them, he directs them, but they're nothing alike. Like literally, this movie Furiosa is nothing like Fury Road in any way, really. I mean, it's
supposed to be a precursor, right? I
Yeah.
saw about half of it on a plane, so I haven't watched
Okay.
the whole thing yet. I liked it. I thought it was good, and I like Anya Taylor Smith. I think she's
Anna Taylor-Joy.
Joy. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she does a great job.
Yeah, she was fantastic, and
Hemsworth.
yeah, Hemsworth was
He was a weird
okay,
character.
I guess. He was a weird character. I didn't really. But so here's the thing: the movie. I think the story wasn't very good because I remember getting to the end when she finally hunts down Chris Hemsworth character and she's gonna get her revenge. And when that happened, I had this moment of, oh, that's right, she's after revenge. I forgot about that.
Takes so long to get to the point that you're like, oh wait.
Yeah, so I totally forgot about that. But in terms of like the opening, like the first 20 minutes of this movie,
That is pretty good. Yeah.
is just like,
Yeah.
I love the music, like the kind of like engine pumping sound and the scenery in the desert, and the direction for this movie is excellent. Like he just guides your attention so thoughtfully and carefully. But there's a lot of longer takes too. Like Furiosa was like, we're over here, over here, over here, over here. Here's 5 different angles.
You
It's
mean
the same
Fury
thing.
Road, yeah.
Fury Road, yeah. But Furiosa is like so much more like smooth, and it just like, I don't know, it just felt like it had so much more care put into like the actual visual presentation. So just as on an aesthetic level, I really appreciated what I got, especially because it was like an underdog. I expected not to like it based on
So
the other one. So it kind of won me over. So I felt like it deserved that third place slot.
You know, I think I'd make the same argument winning me over with Alien Romulus. That's my decision. Here's the thing. It's a paint by numbers movie. Like if Alien had a formula, this is it. So, and we have a review on the channel, so if you want more of our thoughts on that, you can go watch that. But I think aesthetically, I think it was incredible. I really loved the way that they brought in the modern, they mixed the modern with the retro and made it made it its own thing and kind of stabilized it in the universe. And it, it gave you a passable Alien film. And I expected that it was going to be really, really bad. And so I was like, okay, this is not as innovative as I wanted it to be. This is not like what Ridley Scott was trying to do with a lot of philosophical points that he was making with the 2 previous films that came before it. But for what it is, and what I imagine happened is that he probably got, talked to by the studio. They're like, hey, man, these aren't doing great. People don't like them. So we're going to kick you off the project. And they handed it to somebody else. This is what I imagine happened. This is all speculative. And this guy was like, well, I want to make an Alien film, but I also don't want to disrespect the guy who brought it about in the first place. So I'm going to try and do the best I can to respect the legacy of Alien. And I felt like it did that. And I was like, okay, I can deal with that. Like I said, to paint by numbers, I'd have preferred something more innovative and more interesting, but I'll take what I got.
Yeah, it's in that interesting space. I agree with you on the production design. It makes the movie worth watching just for that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and the android. I forget his name.
Oh, yeah. He was fantastic.
He did an incredible job. He raised the value of that thing by a grade level.
He really did, which is saying a lot, too, because usually you need somebody like William Dafoe to get us to
right.
really kind of pay attention to like the acting performance in particular.
Yeah, his performance in No Way Home elevated that film hardcore. Like every time Willem Dafoe was on it was like, sweet.
Yeah, and another category of actors who completely changed like the value of a film. That's the number 1 slot is William Dafoe in No Way Home, because I was just like so neutral on that movie, and then William Dafoe showed up, and
he's like, "Whoa, welcome to my movie." It's like, where have you been the last 20 minutes?
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, Romulus. I don't know if I have too much more to add. I think it was just kind of like, it's an Alien movie. I guess it was satisfactory for Alien stuff, but
it scratched the itch, but it definitely didn't do anything new.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it perfectly. I'm not going to say anything more.
All right, so let's jump back over to you then, your second pick of the worst of 24.
All right, so my silver award for worst of 24 goes to Civil War.
A24, baby.
Yeah, I did not like this movie. This is an Alex Garland movie. And he also did Ex Machina, which I've not seen. I've wanted to see, but he also did what's that one with Natalie Portman where she's like a military person and she goes into that like alien zone?
Oh, ugh.
What's that called?
Pretension. Annihilation.
Annihilation, yeah. So you felt like Annihilation was the most pretentious movie on the planet. I didn't feel that way about it. I thought it was just, the idea was novel, not really much talked about in the movie, and then they just
bring in the most interesting idea to screen. I was like, dude, I saw this coming.
Which could have been if they'd done more with it, but they just kind of did a few things and then was like, We're done now.
It's a pretentious. Anyway. Okay, I didn't know that was him. Okay, so
yeah, so Civil War is him, and it's based on this. It's this idea that America, enters this civil war state where we're fighting each other or whatever.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they don't tell you like whose side is what, so you don't really know. And there were all these people when it came out saying like, "Oh, this is like a representative of like Donald Trump or whatever." And or fascism or all this other stuff, but these are all just projections. The movie really does not give you enough solid evidence because all the characters are just like, it's war, who cares? And the main characters are these journalists trying to like document the war, and they're the ones with the good moral compass or whatever. So it was a big journalism win. But the problem was a number of
made
things.
it more egregious.
Yeah. Okay, so there's like a number of reasons why I don't like this. I don't like the way that it's shot because it basically is extremely formulaic. It'll go from like an intense kind of thrill scene, and then it goes to Kristen Dunst and whoever it was who plays her like co-star. She's like this new upcoming journalist, and she's kind of learning the ropes from Kristen Dunst.
Okay.
So they have like
you
a
have
scene.
The wise old mentor and
Yeah.
the fish out of water. Are you serious?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you have that.
Wow.
But it's like they have a scene, and they just talk about some
So
stuff.
Kirsten Dunst dies in this movie.
Yeah. Of course she does.
I have not seen this movie.
Guess when she dies?
Probably at the end, passing the torch.
Yep.
I hate that I can do that.
If it was any good, you wouldn't be able to.
Exactly. That's fair.
Okay, so, but I am going to unpack this just a little bit here. So it goes back between them having a conversation and then an intense scene. The thrilling scenes, I agree, are nicely put together for the most part. But then when it's a conversation scene, it's just like shot, over the shoulder shot, over the shoulder shot, over the shoulder shot. And they're just sitting there.
Super generic and boring.
It's so boring. It was like, gosh, do something. Like, move. Like, show me something. Like, gosh, just total lack of creativity. And everyone kept saying it was super well directed. Where? What part are you talking about? And like, how is it that I'm missing like the core representations of what these things are supposed to be? It's like the whole experiment is like, it doesn't matter. And then what I came away with from the movie was, I guess it doesn't matter. Like, none of it matters. The whole movie doesn't matter because you won't take a stand. Yeah, it doesn't take a stance. Like, I can handle you taking a political stance that I disagree with. I'm an adult. I'm okay with that. I've watched lots of movies where they have completely opposite political views than I do. And a lot of times it gets me to kind of open my mind. I appreciate perspective. Sometimes I don't agree and I'm like, yeah, I don't like how you've done that. I don't agree with it. But at least like you took a chance and I can respect that. And this one just totally refused to do that.
I think that lens, I will try not to make this as political, but the thing about that film is that it came about, I mean, it's still kind of going on, but there's, in American politics, there's a lot of discourse and disagreement. And it tends to be on both extreme sides.
Yeah.
And so the loudest people, and they seem to be growing in size, but the middle of the country tends to be pretty, they're kind of just like, hey, I don't want you guys to be doing this, but the other two are like ready to go at each other's throats. And
most Americans are moderates.
Right.
Which is what everybody keeps forgetting about.
There's a large majority of people, and like I said, not to make this too political, but Civil War was a term that was being thrown around a lot when this movie came around.
Right.
The point, what I think lends to this probably not aging well, if that's the case, is that it should have had a stance. The fact that it doesn't have a stance is just the fact it's them just harping on that word. It's just a buzzword that's currently relevant,
right? And
is not a window into what is currently going on to cause that word to come about, or that phrase to come about, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it didn't, from what I was understanding, because I did not personally watch this movie, I had no interest in seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I thought it was going to be politically charged.
Yeah.
In a direction with which I disagree. And I don't mind seeing a viewpoint with which I disagree, but I disliked the Civil War talk a lot. Because I thought...
Well, same. I think it was...
I was like, yeah, stop entertaining this idea, you guys, because eventually someone's going to take it seriously. And the fact that you're glorifying it with a film is like, I don't know, is this the right time to be doing this? So, I mean, regardless of your personal grievances with that concept at the time, this film intentionally harped on it just to get butts in seats. And everyone went to see it because they thought that it was going to be catering to one side or the other. And the fact that it didn't left a lot of people irritated. Like, that was the main thing I heard about the film from anyone who watched it was, it's pretty neutral. It doesn't really say anything. It's just there is a civil war happening in America. We don't know why. I don't really care how. We just know that it's happening.
It does not require a deft hand to not give the context.
Right.
That's easy writing when you don't fill in that information. And
right. And it's not that you have to take a stance necessarily, but to give a window into like understanding what led to that concept being thrown around, I think is more artistically valuable than just harping the fact that it is being thrown around and therefore you get to make a movie now.
Yeah, it just had all these weird messaging. Like, there's this moment where there's they stop off in this town and they go into this shop and the shopkeeper's there, and one of the journalists gets really pissed off at this shopkeeper. He's like, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you going out and doing something about this?" And she was like, "This is my shop. I work here." And that's how I felt. It was like this weird, the movie was like, "Why aren't you doing something about it?" I was like, "I'm going to work."
Right. I'm trying to live my life.
I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I'm not a political figure. I don't take massive political stances. Even if I were to, like, it was just.
Yeah. What do you want? Just to pick up a gun and go start shooting people? Like,
yeah. Like, is that what I'm supposed to do?
Like,
just like make myself a soldier?
Right.
And that was like where the value of the film was. It was like, no, the journalists, they're the good guys. I was like, he's wrong. Like, she's right. She's just like, what am I supposed to do? I have to keep my head down. Like,
right.
While this chaos is going on around me. Do you want to buy something or not? Like, so it was just like,
otherwise, get out of my 7-Eleven.
It was like weird. So I guess I did disagree with him. But like, also too, Alex Garland, and I don't want to like attack a person, but like, he's British.
Oh.
And this, I find, because it's just like with Creator. It's a similar scenario with that movie where he was talking about how like what was it, Garth Edwards? He's like, oh, like Americans and all their imperialism. It's like, wait a minute, you're British. The British are imperialistic. Look at their history. Like, so don't be talking about, like, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like,
well, if you're going to make a message, because being British doesn't automatically take away your right to share what your thoughts are on a certain concept, but
as an American, I would just appreciate some nuance.
That's fair, but that's the point about it. Specifically, I can't speak on Civil War because I didn't watch it, but
right.
Creator is so simplistic in its messaging. It doesn't even acknowledge any kind of nuance. It's like, this human's bad, AI is good. It's like, why? Like, shut up and accept it. Like, did you know that already? It's like, no, not really, no, because there's some humans that are good. I don't know what you're trying to say. Same thing with James Cameron, the Avatar.
Yeah.
That very blatant overt messaging.
The thing with him though is he wasn't really targeting any specific culture.
Fair.
He was just saying humanity as a whole. So I could live with that. I was like, it's way
stupid.
too simplistic of humans. We're not all like that, and history's shown that, I think, plainly.
Unless there's a substance called unobtainium, then we might change that way.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make with this is that if you're going to be talking, because you're definitely allowed to talk about American culture, and I think you should. I think outside perspectives are very helpful.
Sure.
I just feel like if you're going to do that...
and take a stance.
Yeah, take a stance for one. As an American, I'd appreciate that. The other is, like, you should, like, make sure you do your research, do your homework. And it did not feel that way. It was kind of like when Rowling put her Fantastic Beasts out in the U.S., and then all the history and it was just like, what is going on? This is nothing like there's no way.
It was strictly her perception of American culture in the
That's what it felt
40s or whatever that was based on.
And I'm not saying like you always have to be, you know, like a stickler by the book on this. I'm just saying that like this cultural nuance stuff matters, especially in a topic like what you're trying to do, because you're trying to talk about our polarized political climate.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, you're going to have to live in it. You're going to have to like inundate yourself in it. And as an artist myself, that's a lot of work that can sometimes be really damaging and tough. And I just did not get the impression from this film at all that that's what he's doing. I did actually listen to an interview with him, and he was talking very much about the journalism side, and he was mostly interested in doing that. So it's weird how like his perception of his own movie, it's almost like someone else titled it Civil War for him to just try to poke at the issue. That's what it feels
that
like.
that was the other interesting thing, was there's a lot of people that seem really deflated that they weren't able to talk about the political messaging of the film because they all knew that like this is a buzzword that is geared towards a specific crowd that are talking about it. And so there was a large group of people on both sides that were, as soon as that title came out, everyone was worried about it. And so a lot of people were talking about the trailer and were like, Civil War, really? Is this something that we need to be doing? And then they would go at it with their projections, essentially. And then the movie came out, and they're like, we got nothing to say because this movie sucks.
Yeah, I mean, like, the kind of simplistic message of, like, we just need to, like, work things out was just, like, I was like, dude, this is not, like, the reason why you bring
just
up
shake
the
hands
nuance.
And hug, you guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the reason why you give us the details and the nuances is because that adds humanity and dimensionality to people.
Right.
And that's what we need to stop the division. So I guess it was extra infuriating for me.
Handshakes?
Well, that comes after.
Oh, okay. I've been hugging a lot of people, and
I mean, well, that's good.
got a lot of restraining orders.
Yeah, exactly.
Got a stack of them.
So yeah, I just felt like it was just extra frustrating for me because it's like, I don't like it when someone takes what's clearly an important topic and doesn't really address it very well and kind of just
or intentionally avoids it.
Avoids it. And it felt like there was quite a bit of that in there. And I was like, you shouldn't be intentionally avoiding it. You're the one who wanted to talk about Civil War.
Sure.
So
you
talk
put this
about
in
it.
here, so.
What do you have to say? I'll listen in.
Right.
You know?
We all showed up to hear what you got to say, and then you decided to say nothing.
Hell, if I'm willing to go into a better man with an open mind, I can have an open mind for Civil War.
See our reaction video for that.
Okay, now I'm throwing it to you. So your Silver Award for the worst movie of 24.
Arguably, I could make this gold. There's an argument to be made there. Now I'm thinking about it.
I kind of feel like it is.
It is a tough choice. These are both.
You could do a last minute swap. Do you want to do it?
You know what? I might actually, because I think this one tormented me more than the other. Okay, so silver, I'm gonna put Craven because.
Okay.
Dear God. It's very rare that I'm at a loss for words for the fact that this movie has no justification for existing within like the film itself or outside of the film, from what I understand. Like it is, it's a rough movie. It's bad. And I like, I'm probably more critical of actors than you are on average. I tend
probably.
to like,
I'm pretty generous with actors, I think.
Yeah, and I understand why. Like, I think you have valid points for that. But man, the fact that no one could deliver a line, and there's an interesting contrast too.
I'm with you on this movie.
I know
Acting's
you.
horrible.
But here's the thing about it though. The interesting thing is that we saw Craven, and then we went and saw Nosferatu, and the main character that plays in Craven, acts pretty well in Nosferatu.
Yeah, he was great.
Does a great job.
I thought he did excellent. I had
in Craven,
zero complaints.
He does a terrible job.
Oh, he's horrible.
And
Awful.
so, like, yeah, we can chalk that down to directors potentially, but man, it like no one in that brought any kind of charm to help it at all. Like there was
charisma vacuum.
It just was like sucking them in. But it was like from start to finish, there wasn't a moment that I particularly enjoyed except the shootout.
Yeah, and
that's such a brief, like 20-second scene that it's barely memorable. Like I'm not gonna remember it next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a charisma void. It was such bad material that none of the actors knew what to do with it. And like clearly, at least with the main guy, there are capable actors on set. So
right.
I imagine that the other actors were capable to some extent, at least some of them.
Yeah, they had to have been.
Right. The Nosferatu example gives me like, okay, so you guys probably do have some talent here.
Right.
And it's so bad, either on the script level or the director's level, or both, probably both, that they're not able to pull any of this out of you. Like they're not able to look at your capabilities, your scope, and play into the movie with them. Like use your strengths to help with the narrative. It was torment to get through that movie. And man, we try. I will actually say, you know what? I'm not gonna.
Come on. You baited me out.
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to. I don't know what kind of trouble I'm going to get myself into here.
Could you talk around it? Because I don't know what this is.
No? It's how we watch the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe don't.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, here's what I can say about how we watched the movie. So this movie in particular had the most, like, we couldn't go 5 seconds without like breaking down laughing or like rolling our eyes or just being dumbfounded. Like, that was how bad it was. Because normally when we're watching movies, you know,
There's
at some
a couple
point,
of scenes that can last a while.
yeah, but
Hold your
this one,
interest.
it was like we would start a new scene, and it was weird. We were both on the same wavelength where we were like, okay, another attempt. Like, let's see
Right.
if the movie redeems itself.
Like, all right.
And then it would just be like, no. And then we were like,
We gave it some tries.
oh.
Okay, here's what I'll say. I think
Okay.
I can talk around it. So we saw another movie beforehand. What did we watch before it?
The Rohirrim, the war.
Right. Man, that was a rough night. That should have made this list probably.
Yeah, and then we saw Craven after. And were you going to say that it was a completely empty theater?
Yes.
Totally empty.
And we were checking all the way up until time of showing because we were trying to time these two movies properly.
Yeah.
We lost our tickets.
Yeah.
So we were checking on Fandango, like, is this thing going to get anybody at all?
No.
No one. Zero. And this is like not even a week after it's released. So like, oh man, the word is spread that this sucks. Don't watch it.
Yeah. It was bad.
And it, like, people accepted that word probably based on the other materials that Sony's been pumping out, like Madam Web, Venom, and the vampire one.
This whole Spider-Verse is a disaster, and they need to stop.
What is the vampire one?
Morbius.
I don't know.
Why am I the one who remembers this name?
don't know. I cannot remember that name. It just does not stick with me. Okay, so yeah, Craven. Terrible movie. So I'll call that silver, but yeah.
So I'm glad you brought it up because you did say a really funny joke in the middle of that
We
movie that I
did
forgot.
finish the movie, by the way.
We finished it, yeah.
We found our tickets at home. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So you're so there's one part where he's sneaking in and because he thinks his brother's being held there. There's the bad guys. So he's sneaking in.
Okay.
And before he starts beating everybody up, he's like walking like right behind them, like right in there. And then you said, and I was crying. I was laughing so hard. You were like, "What is this, Metal Gear?" Where he like goes into a box and then
It was literally that bad. So he goes in and there's two security guards that he jumps behind. What is this? It was like some kind of third world like prison or something.
yeah, something like
So
that.
there's two guys who are like walking up these stairs and he's literally walking like 2 inches behind one of these guys. I was like, you can't be serious,
They're just
right?
going upstairs
Like,
and
I
stuff.
thought for sure he was gonna kill one of them, like in a video game, and the other guy was just gonna keep looking out while this struggle's going on.
They almost did it. They were
was
this
close.
close to doing that.
But then, like, there was a scene on the stairs where one of the guy like turns around and Craven like kind of stays behind him, and then he comes back up and he keeps swaggering up the stairs. I was like,
oh,
"What? Where's your box? He's gonna stick a box, and someone's gonna have an exclamation point over his head. Like it was that stupid." I forgot that I said that, but it was so ridiculous because that was right before that other antagonist shows up
yeah,
and kills 2 people for 0 reason.
0.
Nothing. They come up and they're like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Both of you are gonna die." He's like,
Yeah, because he
why?
can freeze time
"He
and then
could have just
ditch.
left." Yeah.
Why
Instead,
does he
he's
have
like,
to kill them?
But then it gets even worse than that because, like, no justification because they're not like holding him at gunpoint or they don't have him in like shackles or anything. They just come up and say, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, 1, 2. I was like,
that.
stop.
1,
Yeah.
2.
And they do this like distortion thing. So clearly you're like, oh, he's going to kill someone. Oh, no. He grabs
the
his
counting
poison
was
dart
just so immature.
and he kills one of the guys. And then the other guy gets to come back awake. And he turns around and he goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" And it's like, what do you think he's doing? Obviously, he's killing your partner.
Right. That's right.
And then he
What
just
are you
stands there.
doing?
And the guy goes, "What?" And I was like, "Stop. We got it. Just why didn't you kill both of them? Like, why did you take so long to get that guy and then wait for this guy to come too? So you're like, okay, now I can kill you too."
Right.
It was just, oh my gosh.
So dumb.
But it's stuff like that. The whole movie is like that.
Yeah, because when he goes and sees Rhino, he like takes up the elevator and there's a bunch of guys like with guns like on the elevator, and then it opens and he's like, ugh, like against the wall, and then he's like 1, 2, and then he freezes everyone, and all he does is walks up to one guy and rotates his gun around so it's facing like his face, and then he walks past him, and then they have this conversation. You're like, so what did you have against that one guy? Why didn't you do that to everybody
wanted you to know that I could. The thing about that scene, though, was that he had already done that thing like 3 or 4 times.
So we were well aware that he can do this.
Should have been the one and only time he did it if you want to introduce your character in a stupid way. Because it was stupid. Like, this is not how you reveal the, methods of your mad character.
It's the only thing you know about this character is that he does this ability. That's
and he doesn't do anything interesting with it the whole movie. Except at the end when he gets in a fight with Craven, and even then it's pretty dumb. Okay, so gosh,
let's talk about a good movie now.
All right, number 2,
and then we matched on this one.
Silver Award. Yeah, we matched because it's a great movie.
Silver Trophy
goes to Heretic,
which it was great.
It was really great. I don't know what else to say because we do have a video up on that one. We have a review.
Yep.
So for our Silver winner, definitely go check out Heretic because it was worth the watch. The movie. I mean. Yeah, our video, whether you think so or not. Is
actually, I thought that was one of our better videos. To be honest, if I'm gonna try to be objective, I actually liked the Heretic video quite a bit. How that one came out. So yeah, I would strongly recommend we go check out the movie. But the Heretic video only spoils like the first like half ish. So I think that's kind of where we
left the third act alone. So
you
don't lose a lot there.
It produced such a great conversation, I guess. We kind of solidified all of our thoughts, and so it felt like, okay, yeah, this movie deserved it.
Yeah. So, Silver winner.
Yeah. It's just a project that came together nicely. Hugh Grant, top of his game.
Another actor that raised the quality of the film, because the film was already really, really good, but he's like, I'm going to crank it up another letter grade here real quick.
Yeah, without him, I don't know if it would quite be on the list. It would still be a good screenplay,
right. But yeah, he elevated that thing for sure.
He did. Oh man, that's the only break we get.
I know. I felt like it should have been longer, but since we already have a video on it, like we'll go into a little bit on number 1. So,
okay, I'll take solace in that.
Gold. I haven't seen this yet, by the way. I don't want to.
It was so bad. You're probably not even gonna know what movie it is when I say it because it just kind of like came and went. But it's called Horizon.
It's like an American fairy tale or American tale or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's chapter 1. It's like a 4-chapter movie.
You always know it's going to be good when it has that.
Yeah.
Chapter, kind of like Rebel Moon,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like that one.
Yeah. See, with John Wick, it was fine because the first one was just John Wick. And then the second one was John Wick Chapter 2, and they just being a little cheeky. This is not
Well, then
not
they
okay.
said John Wick Parabellum.
Right. Then they kind of messed it up.
Like, screw that formula.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the reason why Horizon, it's a very simple explanation for why it's the worst.
Who's the main guy?
Well, it's Kevin Costner.
Oh, it's Costner. Yeah.
He directs it and he stars in it. I think he helped with some of the writing as well. And so it's this massive Western, and Kevin Costner is the guy behind Dances with Wolves. Great movie. If you don't like Dances with Wolves, get out of here. It's a great, fantastic film. And so clearly, and I'm not a big Western guy, but I love Dances with Wolves, and I can get on board with any story. If the story is good, I'll entertain it. And so the big problem with movies is that it's 4 hours long. 4 hours.
Okay, but that's again that has to be contextualized because we like slower, longer movies. Like calling Nosferatu slow is a stupid comment because it's supposed to be slow.
Yes.
The Batman film, the Matt Reeves film, Robert Pattinson, that is also very slow. Lord of the Rings, it's extremely long.
Yep.
4 hours long, but the extended cut's the only way to watch it. And if you disagree, you're wrong. You're not watching Lord of the Rings properly. You should watch only the extended versions of all of them.
Yeah.
But like length does not determine whether a film is good or not. But if it is a bad film, length definitely is a factor. It is exasperating.
Especially if you're trying to tell 7 films in one.
Oh, no. I didn't know it was doing that. Oh, right on.
It has no less than 7 main characters. And you're bouncing between all of them constantly. And they each get like 25 minutes in total. So you're like,
That's why it's so
how
long.
do they fit? So what ends up happening is you get ripped away, and then you have to go to another storyline, and you're like, well, what is this? And each of them individually were fine. They were directed well. They were acted well.
So
I
they
mean,
should have their own
there was
movie, essentially.
good content. Yeah,
There's 7 different movies now.
a lot of it was very interesting, but like you just cram it all together, and it was just this thing that would never end. And it has I said Longlegs had the worst ending like ever. Well, this one has the worst ending for any movie ever because it doesn't end the movie. It does.
Yeah, it has more movies coming.
Yeah. So what it does is it
That's
literally
why chapter
does
1.
the Rolodex of what you're gonna see in the next movie.
No, it doesn't really.
It does it.
Oh man.
Straight up, like at the end of a TV show where it's like, this is what's gonna happen in the next
tuned
episode.
next week.
It literally did that
Oh boy.
for like 5 minutes.
Oh wow.
I was like,
Well, yeah, you got to catch up with each character, I guess.
what are we doing?
Watch. I'm gonna watch this and love it. I'm
You will not love it.
probably gonna like it.
So that one is the worst because if I was forced to watch any of the other bad movies that came out this year, Horizon would be like watching 2 of those bad movies. So that's
so
the one.
strictly for its length with this one. Like, we're gonna break that rule.
Because it's 4 hours. So like if I have to watch like Longlegs or Craven or Civil War, I mean at least like it'll be over in an hour and a half to 2 hours and then I'm free. But with Horizon, I have to just sit there and take
I
it.
love this hypothetical torment situation. I'm gonna put you through this at some point.
Oh, it was torture.
I don't know, because I think I'd rather 4 hours of that than watching my Gold Winner ever again. Really.
Well, this one was all about the intensity of the dosage.
It was intense on all, but it was a lot of doses of a lot of things. It was just like. So my Gold Winner for worst of 2024 is Megalopolis, which I kind of did this on purpose because we have videos on that, so I don't have to go into depth too much on any of these. So
Yeah.
it's mostly a lazy thing, but we have a review of Megalopolis, which is saving me from the commentary that I would have had to do on this video, because that movie is, if you could embody a form of torture and put it into a movie, that is Megalopolis. That is.
Yep.
You
could use it as a form of torture.
You could. You just play it on repeat until someone talks. That one is like having limbs chopped off in whatever form that would be in its equivalency. Watching that movie is just, it's insane.
It's like being in the mind
Of an insane man.
Yes.
It is insanity incarnate.
Yeah. Things make sense to someone, just not you.
Just not anyone else. Just that one person. I went and did a little bit more research later, and apparently this thing is entirely funded from Francis Ford Coppola. Nobody wanted to touch it. None of the production studios.
I wonder why.
I would not recommend watching it to find out. I would just watch the review. We tried to keep it short so that it didn't torment you guys like it did us. And so we didn't have to relive the torment that we had just watched. So Megalopolis is probably my winner on that one.
Yeah. I think Horizon and Megalopolis make a nice pair.
Nice pair to throw in the trash. All right. So let's get to our favorite of 2024. I'm going to go through a couple of honorable mentions, and then we'll call this one good.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Honorable
you all
mentions.
should know this, by the way. If you don't agree that this is the best movie of 2024, you either haven't seen it or you're incorrect. Or you're that guy who wanted more gore out of Nosferatu.
Yeah.
So this is obviously Dune chapter 2.
Doom Part 2.
No,
That was the best
chapter
movie.
2.
It's Part 2.
It's chapter 2.
Yeah, Doom Part 2 is the best movie of 2024 without question.
Bar none.
Nothing. It's like it's Dune and then there's a massive gap and then everything else.
Right.
The only argument you could throw at this is to put in Nosferatu in the cap, but Nosferatu is like an art house movie.
Right.
So it's like it's
less,
harder. It's
less
like
mass appeal for sure.
yeah. So it's more of like a thought, interesting experiment, worthwhile, but also very complicated. But in terms of like
Complicated. That's a good word.
yeah, very complicated movie. But Dune Part 2 is not that way. Dune Part 2 is like it's a movie
Masterpiece.
that needs to win Best Picture, and I hope it does.
Absolutely will.
I don't think it will, but I hope it does. I think they will wait for Messiah, and I think they will hedge their bets that way.
Maybe. I think
Dune Part 2 definitely deserves it.
It will win Best Soundtrack for sure.
Hans Zimmer already won, though. They're not going to give it to him again.
Get out of here. Did you hear Dune Part 2? Like, Hans Zimmer's going to win again. So I think that's going to win. I think Best Cinematography is probably going to be
Nosferatu, actually.
I don't know. That's tough. Like, Dune pulled some feats.
Well, here's the thing.
Like, and I understand that Nosferatu did too, but
here's the thing. The interesting comparison here is that Dune Part 2 is like on the same level as Nosferatu in every way. It just also has a much more palatable story, but it's not just more palatable. It's like it's equal parts depth, right? The depth is super strong with this movie too. So it's not like you're getting like the blockbuster version of it. It's like, no, this was a really interesting take about like just
a lot of different things. I mean, yeah. I don't want to give too much out. Like, if you haven't seen Dune, if you don't know Dune,
if you didn't see it, where were you this year?
That's fair. That's fair, I suppose. Yeah, I mean,
I saw it 4 times in the theater.
Same.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. Because, I mean, we're among the ones that really loved the first one. Like, it's definitely, it
had detractors, though.
Absolutely. Because I think a lot of people had the same type of feelings. So it's slow. And it's, I talked to one guy who was like, that was a terrible movie. I was like, did we watch the same movie? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know why I'm so different than other people in the movie opinions. But then Dune, it's like, so here's Dune. And then Dune 2 is like, I was like, whoa, man, I didn't know you could do that. And yeah, it's just from start to finish. And that whole third act is just incredible.
Yeah, that third act
in every way is incredible.
The dangers of power, the dangers of
what does it do? Like organized religion,
fanaticism,
Messiah figures, power complexes. Like,
yeah,
it goes into all of it. Prophecy, that kind of thing. Like, it really messes with all these different concepts, puts it into a nice bag, and then is like, also, we're going to be one of the greatest sci-fis of all time. Maybe that's what makes it the greatest sci-fi. But like, the point is, like, not only is this something well beloved in the books, which is like, that's a terrifying. I imagine, I've not done it myself, but imagine trying to take something so beloved and put it on screen and be like, please like it. Like, they'll rip you to shreds. Same thing with like Lord of the Rings audience, which is why Rings of Power is where it's at. But to do that, but not only to do that, but to have a previous film from the 80s that has a pretty solid cult following, which is tough to appease. Denis took this project and like not only made it appealing for modern audiences and for, you know, like a mass appeal outside of the sci-fi crowd.
Yeah.
But also like respected the source material as well as he could with that, you know, there's time limits of a film. Which is where I think it would equate to Nosferatu, because Nosferatu is also referencing, but that was referencing to source material, so I wonder if it has a
window within a window within a window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Dune 2.
The thing is Dune 2, I remember this dialogue coming out when the movie launched, and a lot of people were saying, like, I don't even know what to say, because I feel like this movie is, like, everybody is just representative. It's almost like a Greek mythology brought to life, where it's just, you have these characters that are just, like, so intensely, like, this particular archetype or narrative. And there were some people who were trying to poke into it. They were like, I feel like I wanted more out of this, or I feel like I needed more here or something. But then they would stop and be like, I just don't want to touch it. Because it's like you're looking at this gold statue. You're looking at Michelangelo's David, and you're like, well, I'm not going to mess with that.
Going to chip it, and then it won't be the same.
Right, exactly. So it's just this like pantheon of filmmaking. It was just this huge, colossal production. And like the whole scene on like Giddy Prime, it's like the midway through, then it's just like, we totally leave the main storyline to get all the crash course and the backstory for the villain, and then he comes in, and then he has this huge presence throughout the rest of the movie. It's like, what a move to just come out of nowhere. I mean,
to have
Star Wars is
scope.
like Darth Vader, you need it right now, and this one movie is like, no, I can deliver it later, it'll be fine. Really? And it worked.
Oh, you're talking about Fade, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's one of your pet peeves, is not waiting for so long in a film to introduce a main character, antagonist, or protagonist.
Yeah, typically.
It's tough to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
But he also understood like the amount of material that I have to cover. Like I'm going to have to push him later, so I'll just make sure that he comes in swinging.
The sound for this movie.
Yes. We watched, I think at least twice we watched this in IMAX, right?
Yeah, I saw at the Dolby Atmos.
Right.
Oh, man.
Worth it.
Yeah. Dune Part 2 was incredible.
Yep.
I could only say great things about it. I mean, we should do a dedicated episode where we can actually like watch it again, refresh our thoughts.
Oh, yeah. I want to do both.
But yeah, it was just the level of investment and like it was just such a strong movie.
Yes.
It's like the best. It was just like every level was just working perfectly. And
we had a lot of faith for sure. At least I did.
Yeah.
Probably me more so, even though I know you appreciated him for sure. But
Yeah.
I loved Denis films, like all of them. Since Arrival, as soon as that came out in theaters, when I went and saw it, at least I knew like, okay, yeah, I love this guy's movies. And then he did Blade Runner. I was like, man, this guy's got some talent.
Yeah.
And I understand that just because you have talent in those areas doesn't mean that it's going to transfer into something like Dune. Like Dune is a big, big project. I mean, something equivalent to what Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings. And so I knew this colossal thing could be pretty intimidating even to someone pretty accomplished like that. But yeah, not only to surprise and surpass expectations with the first film, at least for me, but then to surprise and surpass expectations of the first movie with the second one.
Yeah.
And basically create I thought it was a perfect film. There's nothing in that movie that I would touch, just like what you're saying. Like, you don't want to touch anything in there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what would you do?
And I like seeing them as just one movie, part 1 and part 2. It's like, I just want to sit down and watch the whole thing together.
And he basically leaves you room to do that.
Right.
It's pretty seamless.
Just like Lord of the Rings, where, and again, like you're taking this really important source material. It's like, you know, Dune is to sci-fi what Lord of the Rings is to fantasy.
Right.
So,
and he delivered on that.
You know, tall order. And yeah, to be able to disseminate the meaning of that story and just all the subtle things, like the freaking backdrop with the knife fight at the end.
Yes.
With the sunset.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So good. And that knife fight was
incredible.
Intense.
It's
you're just like
Duel of Fates level for Dune for sure.
Yeah, that was
it's brutal.
Best knife fight ever put to film. Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah, between the cinematography, the sound, everything that he did for that film, and showing his scope of talent. Like what you're saying, showing the difference visually between Gita Prime and Dune itself.
Yeah.
And then just the different shots that they play with and all that stuff was incredible. Like he definitely went all out with Gita Prime. He's like, all right, I get to play around and flex here, and he for sure flexed. Boy, like I remember sitting in that theater when that scene came on, and just a dead silence. Like everybody was locked in for that whole bit. Yeah, it was stunning. Anyway.
I remember everyone's faces too coming out of the theater, and all the times I watched it. People just being like,
we talked to people.
Wow.
Both times we're like, "What'd you think?" And they're like, "Man, that was awesome." It was like,
they were just like, "Wow,
agreed."
I was like, "Best movie ever."
Yeah,
like,
correct.
Fair point.
Make an argument.
Yeah, so that was the best 2024 had to offer.
Dune Chapter 2. All right, so I'm gonna do some honorable mentions real quick because I feel like we can just blow through these real quick. Maybe we should have done these before we did the top, but whatever.
I thought that's what you were doing, but oh well.
That's fair. That's fair. I should have. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 categories. So good and bad.
Okay.
And then potentially good and definitely bad. And these are movies that I hadn't seen.
Right.
But I'm going to hold an opinion. So good. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which, did you watch that one?
I watched parts of it.
Okay.
It was all right. I was willing to watch the rest of it, but I just wasn't quite as engaged as I was with the others.
No, the Matt Reeves trilogy is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's hard to continue off of that. I think as well as you can continue off of it, this movie does. And I know that it actually received some criticism, but I actually was pretty entertained with the film. I thought it did a decent job with as much as it could. And one of the things I really loved about it, because they finish an arc in the first 3 films, they just move well away from that arc and do something new. They're like,
Okay.
we're going to just reference this and we're going to move away from it because it's not about that. And I was like, all right, I like that. I like that you're not trying to add on in a way that would potentially compromise. So that was the first one. Quiet Place Day 1 was the other one. I love the first 2 movies. They are fairly simple horror material, but they're really, really well done films.
Unique idea.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're doing with Day 1. I don't know if they're trying to like franchise it or something. Don't know. I'm okay if they don't make any more movies, but for what this was, decent film. In the bad, I'm gonna piss some people off. And you made a good point. I think I'll go with it. So I'm gonna scratch the second option because kids' movies. So who cares? You made a good point. It's probably just better to leave it alone. It's just
you
not
actually articulated my thoughts clearly. You said
low hanging fruit.
Low hanging fruit.
Yeah, and that's fair. But the bad on the honorable mentions: Deadpool and Wolverine. Dumb movie. I know I'm gonna get hate for that. Everybody loves this movie.
If you like Deadpool, you'll like it. If you don't like Deadpool, you won't. There you go.
And yeah, I understand. It was just fan service to the max, and I was like, I wanted an actual movie, guys. But okay.
Yeah, there were a few elements that were okay, but for the most part, I didn't really care for it.
As for movies that I intend to watch that I think might be good, Gladiator 2, Wild Robot, Ghostbusters. Which one was that? Oh, no, Frozen Empire. I'm not interested in watching that. Never mind. I take that off the
why
list.
is that fair?
Well, because I enjoyed Afterlife for the most part.
Okay.
It's a passable movie.
You know, I'm not a Ghostbusters fan, and I've come to a place in my life where I'm happy to admit that. Because I've been ridiculed.
You like accepted yourself for this?
Yeah, because I've had ridicule up to wazoo my whole life.
Have you seen the first one?
Yes, I've seen the first one.
It's a great movie.
It's okay.
Great movie. Bill Murray.
Barely passable movie.
Bill Murray's humor kills me. Great.
I like Rick Moranis actually the best.
Yeah, of course
he
you do.
cracks me up.
Yeah. I am the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So you have a couple of stuff on here.
Yeah, so these are the movies I want to see that I expect to be good or that I'm hopeful of. So starting from the bottom up, A Complete Unknown. I'm actually going to see that on Tuesday, so we might potentially do a review of that if you're going to go see it as well.
I'll try.
That's Timothy Chalamet, and he's playing Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know anything about Bob Dylan. I'm not a big into the music scene, but I like biopics, and I like Timothy Chalamet. He's a good actor. So we'll see. It's the same guy who directed Logan, actually.
Oh, okay.
So it might be good. The next one is Nickel Boys. I'm hearing great things about Nickel Boys. I'm hearing people describe it as like this truly original and like groundbreaking take on how to adapt a novel into film. But I've not read the novel. So my interest
also,
is
Dune
very
2
low.
exists, so high standards.
Yeah. So I'd like to see that movie, but I also kind of am like, well, maybe I just go and read the novel first. But
fair.
Yeah, so we'll see. And then Anora, I'm hearing some good things about that. Anora is actually, so it's like the storyline is, I think she's like a stripper or something like that, but it's like a Cinderella kind of tale is how it starts. But then like it shifts as the story goes on, and then it becomes like totally different when you get to the third act, I've heard. So it's very interesting, and I guess like the director or the writer, he's very interested in like sex workers in America and is trying to do a lot of dialogue about them and what they're going through. So I'm interested in the topic, and I'm glad that someone's providing a voice for that. Heard it was great. I also heard it was a romance movie, and I don't watch romance movies.
Love those.
While I'm single, so not interested. Only so interested, I'll put it that way.
Only 500 days of summer, because that's so good.
Ugh, I'm not going to watch that when I'm single either. Okay, and then the next one was The Substance. I don't actually really know anything about it. I remember looking it up and being like, that seems interesting, but I had just seen Longlegs and had hated that movie.
Is this a horror movie?
I think so. I thought it was a horror. It looks like a horror movie.
I don't know anything about this, so.
But yeah, it's like coming back around now that like Oscar season is upon us, and people are like, oh, maybe it'll show up for a number of categories. I'm like, really? So how did I miss this? Like, that seemed interesting.
I haven't heard anything about it. I've heard nothing. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't remember. I can't even tell you like a breakdown. I remember reading the synopsis and being like, oh, that sounds really interesting. But so did Longlegs. So yeah, actually, the other one I forgot to add to the list is Saturday Night with the Devil or something like that, or Late Night with the Devil. It's like they have this TV show that's tanking.
I've seen
so they
it.
try to. Oh, you saw it? Did you like it?
No.
Oh, I guess this is a bad movie. Apparently,
I wouldn't say
people loved it.
I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. That's a weird one. You'd have to watch. I'd be interested to see what you thought about it.
Okay.
It's a weird movie.
Okay, I'll see it. So it's on my
real
list for
strange.
interested to see.
I'd watch it again for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't really I can't explain that one.
Potential spoilers for new episodes. And then the first choice is The Brutalist, which I've heard people describe as if Martin Scorsese made The Godfather.
Which sounds like an incredible duo.
That sounds awesome.
Like fantasy pairings. We need to do another segment of fantasy pairings.
Yeah.
Do something like that because that sounds like
Scorsese doing The Godfather.
Sheesh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Boy.
And with Adrian Brody, I'm a huge Adrian Brody fan, actually.
He's great.
He's an excellent actor, and he does not get enough credit.
He's one of those that for sure elevates any film he's in.
He does.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't...
Including stuff like Splice and Predators.
He's in those?
Yes.
Oh, man, I haven't seen those.
Exactly my point.
Well, he does not call attention to himself is why he's so
he's
good.
very Gary Oldman that way, where he just kind of fades into whatever movie he's in.
Yeah, he just totally...
just becomes part of the movie.
Yeah, he is one with the movie. It's great.
He's like, I am what I am. I am the pianist.
Yeah.
All right.
So those are the movies on my radar to see. So what about the stuff that you think is... Well, I think we both think these are all bad.
I know that these are bad.
Yeah, these all seem terrible
I
to me.
know they're bad. And these are things that we have not seen.
So we've not seen either of these.
Yeah. So I have 8 of them. I'll start at number 8. Mufasa. We know it's going to be bad. Hellboy, the Crooked Man. Which, here's the thing.
I didn't even know that was a movie.
I heard all of the rumors and the news about it coming out, and then it just went silent. And I was like, oh, okay, this must be like next year or something. I looked it up. It came out like 2 months ago. And it's got terrible scores. And like, I know scores aren't necessarily indicative of a movie being bad.
Not always, no.
The number 6, and these are not in any particular order, by the way.
Okay.
But the number 6, I want to preface this because I have a bias. If you would like to know more about that bias, we have a video. But this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's called Trapped. Therefore, it's bad. The Watchers, which
Good
is
old
done by
Shyamalan.
which is done by his daughter, probably with him sitting on her shoulder. Which means
I felt bad. That poor thing. It's like
didn't have
nobody
a
liked
chance.
it, and it was her first movie.
Yeah.
I felt bad.
And then we have number 4, Damsel. I can't even say it seriously. It's such a stupid idea. Did you hear about this one?
Well, she's a damsel in distress, but then she's not in distress because
not
she becomes a hero.
In a traditional way. Saves
and then
herself.
Saves herself.
Which means I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah,
I did
the
watch...
girl boss thing. We talked about this
Woo-hoo,
and
to the
how
max.
Craven became the ultimate girl boss.
He did. Which means that men can do better than women. I will say that the voice actors for the dragon, because I watched the scenes with the dragon just to see how that went, because I like different depictions of what they do with dragons.
Oh.
Pretty cool.
She's is she not the woman who did the voice? She does voices in like Mass Effect, and she's in The Expanse.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She has a very distinctive voice.
Just very distinctive.
Yeah, and she's a great actress. So yeah, I bet you she elevated that movie quite a bit.
Excellent choice. I mean, she's not in it
Yeah.
that much. That's the problem, because they didn't have as much dragon time.
You got her doing a dragon?
That's what I'm saying.
Why would you?
That was the only part I looked up because that sounds awesome. And then I found it and I was like, this is awesome. And it's like, well, yeah, it's about the only scene in the movie. I was like, well then I don't want to watch it. I watched what I wanted to watch. So there you go. Number 3, The Crow.
This movie came out of nowhere and then just got beaten to death by reviews.
They swung at it as
scared.
it came out the door.
Yeah,
Like-
it was just like
It was like a curse.
chance.
It was like, man, do not make this movie. And then they made it and they're like, fine, we'll see how you did. And they didn't do good.
So this is another remake, but it was a remake of a movie that was like this kind of flawed cult following film.
Which has a lot of very interesting history. I want to watch it because I know a
It's
lot of people that
okay.
enjoy the film. And then obviously there's this mystique surrounding it because of all the things that happen on set. And
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
Yeah.
I'd like to see the original one. I don't want to see this one because why?
Yeah, the original had a tragic accident where the lead actor was accidentally killed in one of the scenes they were shooting. But so horrible tragedy, but it really it hurt the film tremendously. You can tell because there's just so many scenes and cuts where you go, how does this make sense together? It's just jarring and weird. It starts out okay, and then it just doesn't
Gotcha.
really make sense. So I didn't really like it because I just felt like it didn't make sense. But
Not necessarily the film's fault. It's just, what do you
Right.
do after that happens, especially back then? Because that's like 97 or 8 or something.
yeah,
Okay, so I said number 2, but technically this is number 1 because you already went over number
Number
1.
yeah. Which was Horizon,
Right. Horizon was number 1.
which I've seen. So
Right. And I've heard enough.
no more of that one.
The number 2 though is Madam Web, and here's the thing. I tried. Okay.
Did you try to watch that movie?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. No, I tried with.
Like I protected myself. I
I
have
watched-
self-preservation skills.
I watched Venom 1 and Venom 2,
Oh,
and I understand that those have followings, but they are horrible movies.
yeah.
They are terrible. Which I did not think. Like Tom Hardy's one of those that can elevate a film, and
He couldn't do
that
it.
didn't happen. He actually made it worse, I would argue. He did a
Yeah.
bad job. His interpretation of Venom is awful. And then you had Woody Harrelson, another world-class actor. And they ruined that too. And I was like, how did you take these 2 class A's and make your movie a C movie? How'd you do that? That is impressive on its own. Maybe it deserves some merit there. But Madam Web is in the same universe as that and Craven and Morbius. I remembered. Madam Web. I know it's going to be bad. I'm not watching that. I'm not going to put myself through that. Because there's a point, like, and one of the reasons I'm going through these is because I know that, like, I didn't have time to watch all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have that time. Maybe at some point, if I'm making millions of dollars off this channel, which is not going to happen, maybe at some point then I can spend 12 hours a day watching everything that comes out in a given year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the time. Nor do I have the patience. Like, there's stuff that I'll look at and be like, yeah, I know that's not going to be worth my time. Madam Web, top of the list. Like, I saw that trailer and was like, there's no way this is going to be something I'm going to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to say that it's probably not going to be good either. And I understand that they're different. Like, I know that my subjective opinion is different than objective good and bad. But at some point, like, they do correlate. Like, and we try our best to really go into what the differentiation is, because art is difficult
Yeah.
to objectify, right? But at a certain point, there are goods and bads. Like, there is an objective bad within a subjective property. And when you get to stuff like this, especially when you look into the reasons why something is created, it's like, well, you didn't have a chance in the first place. Like, Madam Web is something that shouldn't exist as it exists. I'm interested to see what a Madam Web done by an actual visionary, creative person can do.
Yeah.
But that will not be a chance given to someone who's actually visionary. That's the problem I have. And so when you look at
Yeah.
something like that, you're like, well, why would this be worth my time? Why is this worth watching the movie, talking about the movie, recording a video about the movie? Because we're trying to do that more and more. Like, I want more of this to mean something, right?
Yeah.
And especially if I have a channel dedicated to this type of topic. But that's why I thought this deserved, like, a couple honorable mentions. Like, there are the ones that we think are deserved of horrible and great.
Yeah.
But other, like, I think there's a point here to be made too that there's only so much that 2 guys sitting in a living room can record and do, especially when there's a distance between us and, like, all the scheduling conflicts and things. Like, at a certain point, you're like, you know what? That's not going to be worth my time. I know it.
There's so much distance. Like, look, right there, that gap. Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is you do have to stop at some point.
Right.
Like, for my award show for games, there does reach a point where I sort of go, okay, everything is just becoming white noise to me. Nothing is interesting. Nothing is engaging because I'm just playing all these games, and I'm playing games I don't want to play. I don't have a lot of interest in them in the first place, and I'm just performing an evaluation. So you're asking yourself to evaluate and evaluate and evaluate and evaluate. So that just becomes really taxing after a while.
Yep.
We live in this culture where it's like
oversaturated, hardcore.
Yeah, but like everybody's got to like, get their review out as fast as possible. And like we're in that camp kind of a little bit now. But I still feel like we're taking a few, like there's some movies we'll pass on. Like we didn't see Wicked and review that. It's like we don't have to review every movie that comes out. We just didn't have a strong interest in it.
Right.
And also, like, it's a musical, and it's long. It's like a 3.5-hour musical. It's like, holy cow.
Gosh.
That's a long time to be sitting through a musical. Like, I like
Sheesh.
Chicago, but geez, that's a lot to stomach. I'm sure I'd enjoy it if I saw it, but
at some point we'll probably do like an actual musical video.
that would be fun.
Like
or
a video on musical. I'm not doing musical. I just want to clarify that. I will not be doing the singing.
Yeah, you'll be singing.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a duet.
Welcome to the HolmFront. Like, I'm not doing that. No, I think
Talk about musicals though. Yes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to evaluate that in a wider lens. Like, obviously, we'll watch it for that.
I think it would be worth watching for that. Or we could talk about it in the context of the original, or not the original, but the Wizard of Oz, the original film.
Well,
right?
Wizard of Oz and then Returning to Oz would be another one that would be fun.
Yeah.
You can kind of put it like an
Oz special.
Yeah, there's that fourth Oz film that with James Franco.
I love that movie. That's a great movie.
Do you really? I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, really? Oh, it's fantastic. It is.
We're gonna do an Oz episode. Here we go. Yeah, and foreshadowing. More upsets coming soon.
So we could talk about it then. Like, yeah, we missed it when it came out, but I'd rather watch it at homework and take a break.
Yeah, pause. I'm gonna go get some nachos.
I'll appreciate it more that way, which is also something I've implemented with my gaming show. Is that at some point, some people were getting mad. They were just like, "Well, you didn't like play the game," and then or you didn't play it enough. And then at some point I was like, if I play this game anymore, I will like it less. So I'm going to do it a favor.
You should thank me. I'm not going to be rougher on this thing.
Like, there's a game for next season we're talking about. It's System Shock. And I'll just say this as a hint. The controls, oh man. The controls are something else. You have to be like this to try to get your guys
you're using a keyboard?
Yeah, it's the only way you'll play it.
Oh.
And then he's just like clinging to the walls and he's crouching and rolling around. It's like controlling Gumby. And I just could not. So I just stopped and was like, you guys put forth System Shock for what you want. I'm happy to talk about it. I will listen to your arguments and I will evaluate it purely on that. Because my interpretation is that it's trash. You know what I mean? Because, you have...
But isn't that the point?
That is, yeah.
That's the point, is that it's interesting to hear someone else's perspective to inspire you to play the game with a different perspective.
Exactly.
That's the...
What am I missing
That's
here?
the interesting thing about subjectivity. However, like I said, there are some bad standards. Whereas you might not find enjoyment in that, someone else might in the challenge or whatever it is. Video games are not my thing. But, yeah, I mean, like with Dark Souls. I get the appeal, but man.
We'll get you there.
Maybe. Like gunpoint or something.
We should talk about games a little bit on this show at some point.
I'd like to, yeah. I'd have to play a couple more.
Fascinating medium.
The 5 that I've played. But, yeah, when you're juggling so many things, eventually, like, things just get pushed to the side. Video games is mine. Okay, so, well, that's been our best and worst of the year. Do you have anything else that you would like to throw in there? Any further closing comments?
I guess it's just a nice capstone. This episode comes out in late January, is it?
End of January.
End of January. So it's a nice way to capstone out 2024. And maybe we've given you a few hints of what movies we might be reviewing in the future.
Yeah.
Or near future.
And I thought about this going on like New Year's or something. I was like, taking a break for New Year's, by the way. Which I know coming in January 30th, that doesn't mean anything. But YouTube time, right? So.
Yeah, because it's not even, it's like the 29th right now.
They don't know. Anyway, thank you for joining the HolmFront. We'll see you next time.